It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Founded by men of many nations and backgrounds.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
All right, everybody. It is the Two Doom Men. As always, Skaggs and your captain are here, and we are with 990 WBOB tonight. So,
Yes, sir.
first and foremost, thank you guys for joining us. It's been a month since we've been on. We are excited to be back. Our last episode, you guys, if you've seen our YouTube page, we had Pal from the Wild Side on.
That was fun.
And yeah, that was a great time. So as always, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And you want to tell them what we're talking about today?
Yes, there is always a plethora of topics to talk about in this crazy world that we live in. So today we're going to talk about, unless you have been living under a rock, and hopefully you have because you might have found some gas under there, the gas shortage that was going on. And you wanted to talk about...
We got a little bit of rants about Joe Biden and the awesome week that he's had.
And then for the back end of the show, we're going to have on a buddy of ours, the Unfit Statesman, and he will be talking to us about the NIH Fauci funding scandal. I guess you could call it a scandal.
Yes, it'll be quite interesting because I'll get to learn something too.
Yes, I know a little bit about it, but I don't think you did.
No, it's been a busy week, but we're happy to be back, and here we are tonight. So let's jump right into it.
Let's dive in. So I wanted to first give a little background on this pipeline issue that's been going on, right? So I didn't even know this pipeline was a thing myself until this happened. And so I have here the Colonial Pipeline. It's a 5,500-mile pipeline system that transports more than 100 million gallons of gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and heating oil per day. It's a good thing it's not the wintertime because then our heating oil would be going up too. And that's roughly 45% of the fuel consumed on the eastern seaboard between the Gulf Coast and the New York metro area, which is a
small portion of the country.
Right. So
a little bit.
To set the stage, this pipeline is very important to everybody on the East Coast in terms of our gasoline, our fuel. Our whole economy is based around gasoline still for the most part. So the Colonial Pipeline is the company that manages this pipeline. They said in a statement on last Friday that it had temporarily shut down all its pipeline operations after learning it had been hit by a cyber attack on some of its information technology or business network systems that day. As a result, the firm said it proactively took certain systems offline to contain the threat. Early on Saturday afternoon, the company confirmed that the attack involves ransomware. It said it had notified law enforcement and other federal agencies. Want me to go into the attack itself, or?
I mean, it's been quite interesting. The crazy part is the fear and the panic that everybody's still been on edge from the toilet paper. Everybody trained real hard last year. And they got out there right away to get the gas.
I texted you and a whole bunch of our friends, and it was like, hey, there might be a shortage coming in the next day or so. I'm seeing some reports on Twitter. Go get some gas now. People are making memes, and they're making fun of people getting gas. I'm not making fun of those people. I was one of those people, first of all. I got 5 gallons extra just in case. But, it is funny seeing people fill up the
Tupperware
and
garbage
and
bags.
whatnot. But a point I was trying to make to people on Twitter and on Instagram is, why are you making fun of those people? Those people are survivors.
Yeah.
They don't trust what the government or anything. This whole year should have taught you something.
Yeah, and it's also one of those situations, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. It's not going to be a bad situation if you have the extra 10, 20 gallons of gas. It's going to be a bad situation when I'm not going to believe all this hype. I'm not going to get any gas. And then it's Monday morning and you are on E and you can't go to work and your boss is going to be like, well, the gas shortage isn't my problem.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? It's you're damned if you do or damned if you don't.
That's the way I look at it. There was a lot of actually conservatives criticizing people getting gas And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Since when? Well, that doesn't make any sense to me, but hey, to each his own. So the cyber attack, it was carried out by an Eastern European hacker group called DarkSide. I wonder if they're the same guy from the Justice League, Snyder Cut.
This is how serious people want the Snyderverse to take place in the DC world, that they are actually going to like start shutting down. Like DarkSide is here, and he's going to take over the world.
Yeah, where's Elon Musk, our actual Bruce Wayne, or Tony Stark?
He said he showed up like Batman at SNL.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, in his pickup truck.
Yeah.
So DarkSide, this hacker group, they claim to be a Robin Hood organization who extorts money from organizations and donates the money to the poor. I actually found an old BBC article about them, and it was from October of 2020. And the reason why I found an older article is because I don't trust nothing once the news breaks. And the fact that there was an article explaining who they are and what they do from before this whole situation happened, I believe that they are real, at least. Okay. So I'm trying to put to bed whatever conspiracies I'm sure you're going to come up with later already. But
weird name though, like.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
So what I'm trying to say is there was an article already about them in the past before this thing happened. So they do exist apparently. Mm-hmm. And another funny thing about this is they actually apologized for the attack afterwards. I think they didn't.
Pipeline?
Yes,
or
they
DarkSide.
DarkSide. Okay. They apologized for this mess that they have caused. I don't think they realized what they were going, because their goal is to actually help people according to like their creed or whatever. And I don't think they realize like they actually have screwed a lot more normal people over than they did this company, Colonial Pipeline. Right. So I thought that was pretty fun. Yeah. The hackers are apologizing.
So they apologized to this act, not whatever they did in 2020.
To this act, yeah.
That's insane. Well, I also heard that Colonial Pipeline paid them like $5 million in like cryptocurrency. I don't know how true that is, but I saw like a ton of stuff all throughout social media, around like the regular web, news articles that I read.
That's how ransomware works. It's basically, I'm not a computer tech professional, but
once again, shocking, we're not experts.
Ransomware, they do some sort of hack on your system, and they literally hold the system ransom for money. What's funny about this?
Are you going into what you said before with what they actually hacked?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's funny about this is I saw a tweet, and it's from someone called Kim Zetter. She's a journalist, I believe. And she says, CNN has confirmed what I wrote 4 days ago, that Colonial Pipeline shut down the pipeline because they couldn't bill customers. Per CNN, who's confirming her original story, the company halted operations because its billing system was compromised, and they were concerned they wouldn't be able to figure out how much to bill. So let's take a step back for a second here. This company, it's not the company's fault that they got attacked by hackers, but the hackers didn't like go to a valve and turn off the gasoline flowing through the pipeline.
Right.
They attacked Colonial Pipeline's computer system, and Colonial Pipeline made the decision to shut off the pipeline because they couldn't make money off of it for a few days. So it's
greed, the power of greed.
A corporation has thrown the entire Eastern Seaboard for a loop because they couldn't figure out how to bill people. And you know what? I get it. They're in it for money. They're not in it for charity. But you mean to tell me that a corporation or a pipeline that controls this, has this much importance, doesn't have a backup plan? Like they don't have paper billing. They can't write you a little receipt.
Oh, I'm sure it could have been. I mean, this is where the conspiracies come in, whether this was an inside job or not. But you're right. You couldn't take a hit for a few days. You just let the entire Eastern Seaboard start to free fall into chaos, all because a few people weren't going to get paid. Most of these big corporations, if you have obviously they're billing places like the jet fuel, wherever that's going. You've probably had a long-standing relationship with that company. It's probably been the same billing amount every month. You know what I mean? Maybe it fluctuates, but like a lot of these deals probably are already like set in stone contracts for the next 10 years. We're going to pay blah, blah, blah percentage. It wasn't going to change. You know what I mean? Like,
I see what you mean.
Business
they had a standing deal.
Yeah. Most of these places have standing deals and they pay the same premium every month. Maybe it does go up and down on the price of gas, but I'm sure that's written in these multi-billion-dollar, million-dollar contracts. You knew what was going to happen to these major companies for the next 5 days if you couldn't see who you were billing.
Yeah, just to be clear, also they did fix it today, so I believe the pipeline is back up and running. So we didn't really get affected up here in Connecticut and New York. I did. One of my buddies in the Bronx actually did send me a picture of gas stations that were out.
Yeah, so by me, the closest gas station in New York was packed out the door, and then the two by my job where they had a line going out it. But I never seen I haven't seen anything like I saw online with people filling up like Tupperware and stuff like that. I did when I got off the exit to your house. I was like, okay, I got a half a tank. There's nobody in this gas station. Let me go. And I pulled up and it said $3.49, and I burned rubber as I took off from that gas station.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's amazing though.
Yeah, my thoughts on this whole thing is: you ever seen Bad Boys 2 with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence? And there's a part where the bad guy, the drug dealer, there's like rats eating his money, and he has the guys in there, and he's like shooting at the rats and blowing up his money. He's like, "This is a stupid problem to have." This is the way I feel about this. This is a stupid problem to have. We shut down that other pipeline, which we've talked about, the Keystone, right? That's not for the East Coast, but we seem to need more pipelines. We need backup plans So let's think of it this way. Al-Qaeda, I'm not giving them, maybe I am kind of giving them advice here, but if they really want to mess up the economy, all they got to do is blow up at some junction of
some pipeline
and knock it out, and that will have tremendous, negative impact on the country. That is a stupid problem to have. Al-Qaeda didn't even have to blow it up. Some guys on the keyboard messed the whole thing up.
This pushes over into my rant. What that we'll get into with Biden though, but this didn't happen when there was mean tweets. You know what I mean?
There was a great meme of the crying lady, the crying liberal woman, and she's like, "There's no mean tweets," and she has no gas.
There's no gas. Yes, I know what you're talking about. But I mean, this is something that's been happening more and more, and I'll get into it a little bit. But Biden, all he did so far was sign an executive order about
his specialty.
Yeah, and his big major plan, the man with the plan, the most unifying president ever, is simply just going to spend more money on cybersecurity.
Yeah, that is his brand. I sign a bill, I sign a piece of paper, we spend more money. Money fixes everything. More of the government fixes everything. The same guy who is saying more of the government fixes everything, the government didn't prevent this from happening. There was already so much government, right? But they weren't able to stop this cyber attack from happening. They just want more and more and more and more.
Somehow we were able to. Somehow our election was able to be hacked in 2016, but then in 2020 our elections couldn't be hacked. But then 4 months later, a major gas line can be hacked. And also there was I forget what the company was. SolarWinds got hacked right at either the very end or the very beginning of Biden's administration or so. That was a huge it's on the rise, and we didn't see this the last 4 years, and we didn't see this during Obama's era and stuff like that. Maybe it happened, but not to the extent that it's happening now.
We got to take a break, but maybe when we come back, we'll go a little bit down the rabbit hole a little bit further.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to.
We'll be back.
All right, and we are back. You are listening to 990 WBOB, and we are the two doomed men, Mike and the captain over here, and... So you wanted to jump down the rabbit hole. We were talking on the break, and I'm excited. You never want to go down the rabbit hole.
I was just going to say, usually the rabbit hole is reserved for you.
Yes.
But I saw, while I was doing all my research for this whole gas crisis, I saw two articles. This one from CNN on April 27th of 2021, and it says, "Coming this summer, gas stations running out of gas." And another one, where is it? Right here. From Business Insider, and U.S. summer vacation travel threatens gas outages in 2021. This was also last month. What is going on? How
you got to start believing the conspiracies, man.
Is this a QAnon thing?
Not really. I mean, I haven't been following them too much lately, but this is why I always say question everything. We have two articles here calling about how there's some shortage. My big thing...
One day apart from each other, by the way. 27th and 28th of April.
When this first happened, we started talking, and you were like, yeah, but the administration has nothing to do with this. It's not like Joe Biden has a guy inside working there that, shut off the valve or whatever. And I was like, you know what? You're right. It happened under Biden's watch. We have to see what he does to make things better. There's no way he's directly involved with it. But then... Twitter came out and was like, there's no gas shortage, and now you show me these two things, and now I have to be critical. And the conspiracies for it constantly are, this was planned. It just so happens we're going into summer, COVID is down, a lot of things are opening up, and a pipeline that provides gas to a bunch of red states now isn't providing gas. During summer vacation, we all want to go away on vacation. Are you going to travel to New York and California and be restricted? Or are you going to go to Florida and Texas or, South Carolina where people are going, people are living back to normal lives?
Interesting point. And that is where this shortage has really actually caused some damage in those, southern red states.
Yeah.
Like I said, it didn't really affect us here because it takes time, I guess, for the gas to travel. But there it did. And that is a good point you mentioned about this whole thing. I saw on Twitter in the trending news topics, it said reports of gas shortages are coming in, but they're not verified. There is no shortage. Something along those lines. The New York Times wrote an article saying there is no shortage. When this whole thing started, there was someone talking at the White House press briefing, like one of the administration officials. There is no shortage. There is no shortage. So real quick, going back to what we were saying before, the videos, the memes of people like filling stuff up. How do you blame people for doing that when there's outright lies being told by, like sources, major sources,
Trusted
Twitter,
sources,
trusted sources. We don't trust them.
Well, that's why, that's the whole thing now. Like, whenever something like Twitter denies what I know to actually be going on, I know it has to be the exact opposite now. So, like I on my own personal Facebook, I had, a status that made me giggle, watching all the liberal left-wing media outlets have meltdowns over Congresswoman Cheney being voted out of the GOP. CNN is the same company that called your father a murderous warmonger.
Let's be real, he was a murderous warmonger.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that. But now they're acting like she's the most necessary member of the GOP.
Yep.
I know now not to trust her.
Well, we talked about this with Pal, and it's because she is so anti-Trump and is trying to put the election fraud thing in the rearview mirror of the Republican Party, which me and Pal kind of agreed on. But at the same time, I just can't support somebody like that. Someone whose family is like so establishment, so pro-war, has caused so many people to die around the world and profit off of that stuff. And I made this in the last episode. The fact that Bernie Sanders was simping for her is absolutely pathetic, and makes me. I liked Bernie Sanders, but that makes me question his motivations, everything about him, even further.
I told you he took the paycheck, man. But like I was gonna say, and I don't mean this in any way, shape, or form, the actual animal, but I think we're gonna start seeing rhino hunting season. Republicans in name only. That's the rhino I'm talking about. But yeah, I hope we see more of this because somebody needs to stand up. There's been a lot of overreach. We could get into what I wanted to go on with Biden today. Just before we came on earlier today, the CDC announced if you've been vaccinated, you basically got your free pass to go back to normal life. We don't know what the passports are going to be. Yes, there's going to be an issue of a lot of people lying, saying, yeah, I'm vaccinated. Oh, let me see your papers. What are you, a Nazi? I'm not showing you my papers. So it's going to be interesting to see what goes on with that. But after the week Biden had, here he is on Twitter, like the rules are clear. You either get vaccinated or you stay like this. You either get vaxxed or you stay masked. You had a pretty shitty week to start barking orders. We had the Keystone Pipeline. The war is popping off. Civil war is actually taking place in the Middle East right now.
Yeah, in Israel. That's something that we can't get into. It's so deep. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a border crisis. Kamala Harris has been in charge of overlooking the border for 50 days now. 50 days. She has yet to even talk about the border. She has traveled the country and still has not gone near the South, near Texas, anything like that.
Yeah. It's funny because I shared on our Instagram the other day, someone wrote an article saying how Biden has had the best start and is of a president ever. In the history of all the presidents. And I laughed hard at that. I couldn't think of more of the complete opposite. And I've tried to be fair. When we gave him his report card, I was fair. And I said, in terms of like rolling out the vaccination and like how to get it, like mass vaccination, he did a good job in that regard. So I tried to like take some of the issues and judge him fairly, but to say you polished
the poop enough
to
make it shiny.
To say he's the best president ever,
No.
I mean, come on, that is literal state-run Kim Jong-un propaganda.
I mean, my favorite, I guess, tweet, whatever, has been, Trump, record low gas prices, energy independent, peace deals in the Middle East, border secure, record-setting jobs. Biden, gas prices doubled, gas shortage, Middle East back at war, border crisis, inflation crisis. It's only been 4 months. 3 episodes ago, we had his 100 days in office where we just gave him these grades.
Yeah, it's the grade has changed dramatically in 2 weeks since that episode.
Yes, this is wild. How quickly things are just burning down around this man.
Yeah, where are we going to be in 2 years?
Yeah, and his only answer is let's throw money at it.
Yeah,
let's
increase how much problem there is. And that's always. Dude, we were talking about. That's why I'm getting into the libertarian parties, because their like idea is rein everything in.
You're right.
There needs to be less government in the way and creating all these problems.
And if you look at it now, especially with, we'll call it as progressive as Biden wants to be, the overreach has never been. The government has never been bigger than it is at this one point. You know what I mean? Like the overreach has way gone past anything that like a libertarian should ever have allowed. Like we are in new territory at this point.
By some miracle, like Dave Smith or a libertarian were actually be able to become president, they'd have such a job of rolling back the state. It would. I think even Dave Smith has said, like, even if I was able to become president,
I don't know what I could get done.
He's saying like I can maybe get some things done. He's like, but if you think within like 8 years I'm going to be able to roll back this massive cathedral of the federal government, it's not going to happen in just 8 years. It's going to have to be like a cultural, structural change of the way people even think about government. Because right now, everybody just thinks the government is going to fix every problem you have. And and as we have said so many times, they keep making the problems and then selling themselves as the fix to that problem.
Nobody wants to admit that this inflation is coming. And when you talk to someone who voted for Biden and tell them inflation, they just start jumbling and they sound like Rand Paul and Dr. Fauci arguing. They just, I don't know. But anyway, we need to go to our next commercial break.
We'll be back with the Unfit Statesman after that.
Can't wait. Exciting.
All right, 990 WBOB. This is the Two Due Men, and we're back. And we have a special guest, our friend Zach, the Unfit Statesman. Zach, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here, gentlemen.
Thank you for joining us.
What's up, Zach? How you been, man?
I've been good. I'm waiting this out. I'm keeping an eye on the crypto, and we're moving. We're just moving forward. We're powering through the fall of a dynasty here.
Yep, diamond hands, baby.
Like what you
yeah, I don't have those, but yeah.
So, Zach, why don't you tell 990 WBOB what you're about, what your podcast is about, those funny videos you're making?
Yeah, it's really. Some people have described my podcast as like a political podcast. It's a politics podcast. It's a conspiracy podcast. It's a comedy podcast. I don't really think it's a political podcast. I rarely take political sides. I actually don't I don't have strong opinions really politically. I care less about a person's political ideology, and I care whether or not a person is ideologically consistent. Even if I think somebody's wrong, but if they're ideologically consistent, then we have a starting point and we can go from there. So people have called my podcast political. It's more just, if anything, it's apolitical. It has nothing to do with politics. It's just kind of it's an analysis of what's happening in the world with an attempt to keep politics and partisan hackery out of it. So.
Yeah, I like the way you put that. If someone actually does believe something, that's fine. I vibe with that. There's too much inauthenticity nowadays. People just playing a role or not meaning what they say.
Yeah, I like me and Skaggs were talking about earlier. One of our friends is kind of annoyed that like you could go out without your masks on now, and he's complaining about it. And I just admit you don't ever want things to go back to normal, and I'll respect you more for saying that than just this nonsense, just fighting to keep things the same.
There is, I can't imagine. There's a good splice of the population that doesn't want things to go back to normal, so they can blame their lack of success or lack of whatever it may be on the fact that, hey, we're in a pandemic. What am I supposed to do?
It's a good point.
Yeah, putting a mask on, I've seen people say.
That's a large segment.
Yeah, putting a mask on and this whole asymptomatic, thing has made people that are useless feel like they're heroes. I've seen a lot of people say that. So,
it's changed how it's redefined what we perceive in our society as courage, or as as a positive. People who were not beneficial to society now can believe that they're benefiting society.
I know you're watching your tongue here, because we told you can't curse or be too vulgar. The guy who calls his fan base pigs. I know you're tiptoeing around some of these words here. I appreciate the effort.
Listen, I'm a professional.
Yep, I saw your work with Santa's Little Helpers and the CIA agents, so we're good.
Yeah, no, those are not radio friendly. Those will...
Definitely not. Listen, let's talk about what you had messaged us earlier, and this article by Nicholas Wade and the whole lab leak, Fauci, NIH situation. Tell us what you know about it and what's your thoughts.
Yeah, so I mean, if you can read it pretty much anywhere. It's been republished on a million different platforms. I read it in the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. But basically, with Nicholas Wade was the editor of the science section of New York Times for like 30 years or something like that. He's been, he's written, he has quite a bit of credibility in these topics. And what he does, and he makes sure to say that he's not making any statements about it or saying objectively that this virus came from a lab, but he does lay out a ridiculous amount of evidence that would point to it escaping from a lab. And one of the things that he does in the beginning of the report is he breaks down sort of the molecular property of the virus, which I won't go into too much just because I don't know. I know the words, but I don't know what they mean.
Yeah.
So I'll stick to the things that I can understand, and I think most, people outside of the field of virology can understand. One of the things that he hit hard on was the fact that, first of all, this supposedly level 4 virology lab in Wuhan was not operating at a level 4 safety standard. It was operating at a level 2. Right? There's 4 levels, biosafety level standards. To give people some context, a level 2 is the standard of the average dentist office in America. Okay, so these people were handling and attempting to manipulate some of the most dangerous diseases and viruses basically in a dentist's office, right? That's what they were doing. And he kind of goes through a slew of different things that would counter anybody's claim that it naturally emerged. One of the big things, like I said, he goes into spike proteins and what's called fear and cleavage, which is a splice in the spike protein, and how that has never been seen before in a beta coronavirus, SARS, MERS, none of that. But some of the big stuff that stood out to me was, they never actually isolated where it came from, but they believe it came from what was called the Horseshoe Bat. The Horseshoe Bat dwells in a cave about 1,500 kilometers away from the Wuhan lab. The problem is the range of the bat is only 50 kilometers, right? It doesn't travel anywhere over 50 kilometers north, east, west, or south of that cave. We also know that the scientists in the lab were going and collecting samples from that cave. Also, very interestingly, when the virus broke out, that was actually during the bat's seasonal hibernation, the horseshoe bat seasonal hibernation. So there was no possible way that these bats were naturally, flying, making their way to Wuhan, and just ended up there in a wet market. It's just absurd to believe that happened.
The thing is also with the bat thing. Did the bats wait to get to Wuhan to start
Yeah.
biting people, or did people wait to start eating them until they got to Wuhan? How come, no one denies that COVID-19 originated from Wuhan.
Right.
So if you're telling me it's from a bat from a cave 1,500 miles away, well, then how come it didn't originate in that region of China?
Yeah, what's the closest town? What's the closest
the bats waited.
wet market?
They waited. They got on the train, waited, until they got to Wuhan. Then they started infecting people.
Right. But it's literally scientific anomalies happening. One of the things he says that's actually probably the most damning to the natural emergence theory is the fact that this virus had no evolution. There was no mutations to the spike protein. So most of the time, for SARS-1, let's take SARS-1, for example, it had 20 mutations, approximately 20 mutations in the spike protein of the virus before it became a problem for humans. Okay? And that's just because the chances, the likelihood of a virus jumping from one species to another and having the effect that this virus did to humans is insanely rare. I mean, when I say insanely rare, I'm not sure it's ever happened. I think the only reason they say it's rare and not impossible is because they just don't know and they can't say anything is impossible. But I don't, from what I read, it's never happened. Okay? What has to happen is it jumps around to different species and it mutates and evolves until it's become something that has proclivity to attach to what's called the ACE2 cell receptor in humans, which will allow it to attach and infiltrate and affect the human. And that, like I said, that takes a long time and it takes a lot of mutations. The spike protein in COVID-19 had no mutations. There's no evolutionary evidence that it mutated or that it had evolution because it's not affected any other animal. There's no scientific trace whatsoever of it lying dormant in the human body and mutating in the human body to the point where it can affect someone. It seems like basically what happened is it came out of the bat, jumped to a human, and it immediately just started affecting people.
Sounds pretty man-made.
Well, and you can test this theory, right? So what you have to do is you have to take a vial, you have to take a sample of COVID-19 and then put it back into a non-affected bat and see if it affects them. They've done that. It does. COVID-19. If you drag some COVID-19 out of a jar into a little needle, and you inject a bat, a horseshoe bat, it doesn't affect them, which means that the supposed host that gave this to us is not affected by the disease. Well, again, the problem is it's not mutated. So if it hasn't mutated, that means that it's the same disease.
I would say they have an immunity to it then, the bat?
No, they wouldn't have an immunity to it because so what the science is saying is that this virus didn't need to mutate. It could infect bats and it could infect humans. But if you take like the COVID virus out of a human and or if you found a strain of it and you inject it into the bats that it originated from, it should infect them. But Zach is saying it doesn't.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
That's what it says. That's what Nicholas Wade said in the report. None of this, I'm dumb. None of this information is stemming from my brain. But there are some pretty baffling things. I mean, first of all, and then, we have all that. We have the information. Like I said, I'm an inarticulate fool. Go read Nicholas Wade's report, okay? The issue right now is the fact that we, through the National Institute of Health, have been indirectly funding what's called gain-of-function research in Wuhan. Gain-of-function is the manipulation of the virus to study its effects on humans. It's basically attempting to make a virus more dangerous to humans so you can then backtrack, purportedly, then backtrack and prevent it from happening.
Right. I heard about this, actually. I was mentioning to you earlier. I heard this on Joe Rogan's podcast. He had on, coincidentally, a guy called Josh Rogan, who is a columnist for the Washington Post. So in case you think, another biased journalist, etc. Well, he's a journalist for the Washington Post, which is not very friendly towards this whole scenario. He's very left leaning, but he tried to look at the whole situation logically, and he actually broke the news on Rogan's podcast that Fauci was involved in the funding that went to the Institute of Virology in Wuhan. So I have known about this for a couple of weeks. Yeah. Okay.
So because Rand Paul grilled him on it, he was saying, you funded this gain of function research, and Fauci responded. He said, the National Institute of Health never directly funded the Wuhan laboratory, which is true. They never directly funded it. They funded it through Eco Health or Ecosystem Health Alliance in New York, who they gave them the grants, who took the grant money and funded the Wuhan lab.
That's somebody washing the money.
Yeah, they just laundered the money.
The problem is basically for the first 3 years that we were funding the ecosystem or the Eco Health organization, there was a moratorium on gain of function research because there's ethical concerns. But it was happening anyway. So one of two things had to happen. Either Peter Daszak, the leader of this organization, either he broke federal law and said, I understand that you say we shouldn't fund gain of function experiments, but I'm going to take federal money and do it anyway. Or there was a side note to the moratorium that was written that the leader of the institute could make an exception. So either Fauci said it's okay, go do this, or Peter Daszak committed a federal crime. And it, like I said, it can't be both, but it can't be neither. It has to be one or the other. And neither one of these men are going to be, questioned, probably not even questioned.
No accountability.
What happened. No, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, complete speculation here, but it sounds like to me they accidentally caused this pandemic, and our tax dollars have something to do with paying for the research, which maybe uncovered or
no way this was an accident.
Virus to come out.
No way this was an accident. Look how nefarious just gain of function study is.
Yeah, what do you guys think about that, right? Because from what I understand, gain of function research essentially is they go out and they search for these deadly viruses in the wild, bring them back to the lab so they could study them and make medicine and learn how to prepare for them possibly causing pandemics in the future. I don't think there's sometimes we should not mess with things, right? This is like Skynet. Remember when they had Skynet and they had the choice of turning it on or off? Maybe we shouldn't mess with certain things like this.
It's on top of making medicine and stuff. It's also seeing how the virus could get deadlier. I mean, it's just basically building bioweapons. Right.
Yeah. It's called gain of function. What function did they actually gain from studying these SARS viruses? Because when this pandemic happened, right? Yeah. So what was the function that they gained from it?
Yeah, that we could shut down the world for a year at the time.
Didn't they name gain of function as the function of the virus? I think it's named for actually when they say gain of function, the virus itself is gaining function. I don't think I think that's why they named it.
Okay.
I mean, they gave it a title, which it seems positive. And it seems like it's coming from the perspective of helping, the patient or the population. But again, this is something that, science, people have ethical concerns about this. This has been a debated topic, which is why there was a moratorium on it in the first place. And again, this is, in 2015, there was two different things. 2015 and 2018, America's government, the State Department in 2015 wrote a memo talking about how poorly ran the Wuhan lab was. And then in 2018, I forget who it was, but somebody actually visited the Wuhan laboratory, and he was the one that said this is functioning at a level 2 when it should be functioning at a level 4. So they knew they had every opportunity to say, no, this doesn't seem like the best lab. Even if you're going to do gain of function, whatever, sure. But you better make sure that where you're doing it and the people that are doing it are extremely responsible.
Yes.
And government officials had every resource available to them to make what would be the accurate judgment and say Wuhan is not the place to be doing this. So it was a negligent judgment on Fauci's part, or again, this Peter Daszak broke the law. He committed a felony. And oddly enough, because when it first came out, this COVID-19 thing, it was, a little over a year ago, everybody wanted to know where it came from. And the media immediately pushed the leaks from the lab under the rug. They said that's not true. There are scientists, they overwhelmingly agree that this was emerged naturally. And then one of the things that they pointed to as their main source for their reasoning of the natural emergence theory was this letter that was penned in the Lancet.
Right.
Basically,
wasn't it penned by these guys?
Say it again.
Wasn't it penned by these guys who are kind of in charge there?
That letter in the Lancet was drafted by Peter Daszak. Okay. So and the crazy part was they in the letter they declared that they have no competing interests in the topic whatsoever. And it's like, you just lied to our faces. We now know that the owner of the company that funded the Wuhan laboratory wrote the letter that the mainstream media leaned on to say that this was naturally emergent. It's insane. This is insane. This is clown world. We're living in clown world.
Upside down world. I got to say, though, this was the perfect storm from the start. They found this lab that is basically essentially a dentist's office. These people aren't responsible. The NIH isn't directly funding them. They're funding somebody who's funding them, And then on top of it, we let a lab in China do gain-of-function research. China's never had our best interest at heart, ever.
Yeah, there's that outside of it.
Why are we even, if we're going to do gain-of-function, I don't know, maybe somewhere here. I guess, going that far away, better safe than sorry. But here we are,
This reminds me of the Josh Rogan podcast, Joe Rogan podcast. And he was saying the reason why, we were doing this in China is because that's one of the foreign relation tactics we've had with China. We're like, here, we'll give you money for research. This will improve your country's standard of living. And the thinking was, over the course of time, if we helped improve the standard of living in China, they would democratize and get away from, being like a communist.
I really wish
dictator.
We could curse on this, because that's a crock.
Well, I mean, listen,
okay.
That's the Bill Clinton train of thought. We're like, we're going to bring these guys into the World Trade Organization. We're going to, hopefully they will see the error of their ways and evolve to, our mindset. But, that was 1999, and I don't think it's worked. Right? Attempting to kowtow to China in an attempt to, think that they're going to change their ideology. I mean, they're just as stubborn as America. I mean, America is stubborn, and China is stubborn, and so is Russia. I hate to break it to some people. World superpowers are kind of dedicated to their thing. It's just it's what it is. They think that their thing is the best because it's worked for them so far, and they want to push that onto others. Just like America wants, this is the reason why we're doing this. We're trying to democratize China. Why? Because we think democracy is the best. And China, right back, wants to push communism on everyone. They want to push Chinese culture and communism on everyone. This is just what it is. And it's baffling to me that people, think that we're going to change the way an ancient culture, by the way. China has been around longer than us.
By billions of years.
Yeah, we're going to change their way of thinking because, we gave them some money over 30 years. Meanwhile, they've been around for, 500,000 years. It's like,
forever.
It's a tough rock to move, man.
Yeah, and if you zoom out now and look at that whole scenario, who does it look like is winning that whole ideological battle? It kind of looks like they're winning.
Yeah.
America has, the government has gotten bigger. People now seem to willingly accept their lives being controlled and dictated by the government. So zoom out and think about that. Who's really winning that battle? I guess you could say.
That's kind of how we point out the establishment. Like, we know you're corrupt. Like, there has to be someone on the inside helping you because you're clearly winning. Where's critical race theory coming from? Changing our, the children's minds and stuff like that. It all just comes,
Yeah, it is definitely being pushed by those forces. I would say.
the shadow, the shadow.
I don't want to get too deep into it because I haven't done any research, but definitely is. I heard something about the Confucius Institutes and how they're they're involved in the the education sphere, and they're kind of pushing. Are you familiar with the Confucius Institutes?
Nope.
They are like similar to what we were just talking about. They're like schools of thoughts, I guess you could say, from China that are here in America, and it's like part of that. Well, we'll learn from your culture, you learn from our culture, etc.
Kind of, they're like a foreign think tank.
Okay.
So yeah, behind the scenes, they could be pushing that stuff as well.
Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't they? If you wanted to, if one world power wants to take over another world power, you have to infiltrate it somehow.
Yeah.
Well, listen, everybody, we understand that this beautiful, beautiful empire, America, is crumbling in front of our eyes. But at least people can take solace in the fact that their tax dollars went to fund research that leaked a virus that killed 3 million people. Listen, probably, right? That's where we're at. It didn't emerge naturally. I mean, most of the science is against that. So, there's good things. We're funding Israel. They're busy. We're funding things. That's all the bad things that happen in the world. You can stand up proud and say, "Yeah, I paid for that."
Yep, that's what I was just going to say.
We basically did. Yeah.
We're funding our own demise, and at every turn, they're going to sell you as, well, we need to fund more of this and more of that. It's crazy, man. I don't know about you, but I've been looking into the Libertarian Party a lot lately, and their whole message is just like vibing with me. Of we need to roll back the state at every aspect, because it's the state which is causing all these problems in the world.
I've had a lot of people who they don't even call themselves libertarians; they call themselves anarchists.
Yes.
On my show, and basically they go, "We don't have an agenda. We just don't want anyone else to push any agenda on anyone else." Right? Their whole thing is, and I don't know how realistic it is to believe that we can live in a state that would be fractured to the point where people could do whatever they want in different areas of the country governmentally. I don't know how. Personally, I don't think it's realistic, but I do like the sentiment, and I like the idea that if a person, if North Dakota wanted to be communist and South Dakota wanted to be capitalist, and as long as they didn't infringe on each other's rights, they just did it and they got along and got on with it. Yeah, that would be amazing. I just don't know how realistic it is, but
very unlikely without starting war.
Type of shrinking. There's got to be a shrinking of the government. These people are pigs. You think my listeners are pigs? These people are pigs.
That's what I was saying before. There's never been a government this size. The outreach has never been so far. The spending bills have never been so high. Like when this is over, like the tab of Biden's first 4 years in office is going to be a number that we probably never even seen before.
And it won't be just a tab in money. It'll be in lives.
Everything.
Dreams, everything. Right. We're seeing it now with the whole unemployment thing. Just giving everybody free money for an extended period of time does not just work.
No.
People need an incentive. People need to go make things. If nobody makes anything, then what are we going to use the money to buy?
It's right now, let's say, you're going to get a job that pays you, $17, $18 an hour, and the government's willing to pay you $15 an hour. Why am I going to go? I was a businessman. I lost my dreams, running my business. So now I'm going to go flip burgers or something for $15, an extra $8, that I can make an hour where I could just sit home instead.
Yep.
You really want to go be demoralized like that and stuff? That's why the job numbers were so low, because
the incentive is not there.
The incentive is to stay home.
Yep. So I hate
to think that this might
short. Good.
What?
We got 2 minutes.
We got 2 minutes left, so I wanted to get you in so you could plug your show, and then we'll plug ours.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm going to make a point first, and then I'll plug. I might this might indirectly be a good thing if we can expedite ourselves to the bottom in this country, and then we can start rebuilding after that. Maybe it's a good thing that people are lazy. They don't want to go back to work. The economy's going to struggle. Everything's going to fall. There's going to be a massive cultural fissure. what Americans do is they forget quite easily. Their brains, it runs out of steam. They don't remember things. Their attention span is that of a goldfish, and they move on. And if we tire ourselves out, I think eventually there's gonna be a point where people get sick of not working and not having money, and there's gonna be a point where people get sick of fighting with their neighbors, and then we're just gonna go, you know what, you know. Oh, yeah. Like, I mean, think about this. OJ's on Twitter now. Nobody cares that he killed two people. People just move on. They move on. So
you got your point there.
Rock bottom and then bounce back. That's what I say.
You can only go up from rock bottom.
We got about 1 minute, so go ahead, Zach. Plug your show.
All right, at Unfit Statesman on Instagram and Twitter, and then Unfit Statesman on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and others. Just Google it.
All right.
Great show that it is, and 990 WBOB, it's been a great night with you guys. We are the Two Doom Men. You can find us everywhere Donald Trump is banned. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter is at Two Doom Men. Our link tree is up on our Instagram page, so you can find us everywhere that we are from there. And you can find us where every major podcast is listened to.
Easiest way, linktree.com/2doommen.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night, everyone.